Welcome to this premium masterclass in elite hotel housekeeping operations. Today, we're not talking about mere cleaning. We're going to completely elevate your understanding of housekeeping, moving from basic room maintenance to the management of a highly sophisticated, world-class hospitality system. You see, in high-end hospitality, housekeeping is actually an industrial-scale logistical operation, and it has to be executed with microscopic precision. By the end of this session, you're going to possess a robust framework for operational mastery. You'll understand exactly how top-tier establishments guarantee flawless standards across hundreds of rooms every single day. Let's jump right in. Our core curriculum today is broken down into 3 logical phases. We'll start with the foundation, focusing on architecture and psychology. Then we'll move into the engine room to tackle risk and logistics. And finally, we'll cover execution, breaking down the exact 5-star standard operating procedures.
Let's begin at the executive level with Part 1, Foundation, Architecture and Psychology.
In any large luxury property, the housekeeping architecture is incredibly complex, meaning lines of authority must be strictly defined. The executive housekeeper sits at the very top, reporting directly to the general manager or the room's division manager. But they don't manage every room attendant directly. That would be impossible. Instead, they delegate highly specialized divisions of responsibility downward. The entire operation is split among assistant housekeepers, who then oversee highly specific supervisors, floor supervisors, public area supervisors, linen room supervisors, and the control desk. This rigid hierarchy is absolutely not bureaucratic fluff. It is a strict necessity. It guarantees that every single square inch of the property has a dedicated owner, completely preventing those massive accountability gaps that inevitably lead to catastrophic service failures. But here's the reality. A brilliant organizational chart is completely useless without the right human capital. When you are staffing this hierarchy, you have to hire for very specific, inherent psychological and physical traits. Now, an eye for flawless detail and general physical fitness, those are just mandatory baselines. More importantly, you must select for uncompromising honesty and integrity. Think about it. On any given shift, a single housekeeper has totally unsupervised access to tens of thousands of dollars worth of guest property, sensitive corporate assets, and incredibly expensive room amenities. You can easily train an employee on the mechanics of making a bed, but you absolutely cannot teach innate integrity or calm diplomatic demeanor when they're suddenly faced with a highly demanding guest. You must hire for the psychological profile first. And once you have the right psychology in place, you must enforce the right presentation. Why do elite properties enforce strictly trimmed nails and perfectly ironed uniforms? Because in luxury hospitality, personal presentation is a direct reflection of the entire establishment. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they are actual professional skills. Furthermore, mastering clear, professional communication minimizes misunderstandings and operational errors when your team is coordinating with other staff and guests. It's what ensures the whole operation runs smoothly, securely, and silently. Moving from organizational theory, we now need to engineer the logistical backbone and safety protocols of your daily operations. Welcome to the engine room.
Make no mistake, housekeeping is a heavy industrial operation. Your staff handles powerful and sometimes highly flammable chemical agents on a daily basis. Therefore, implementing rigorous COSH, that's the control of substances hazardous to health risk assessments, is absolutely critical. With so many volatile substances used day in and day out, your risk assessments must proactively identify potential hazards across 5 core areas of your premises. If you fail to standardize this, you aren't just risking a poor clean. You are actively exposing your staff and your business to massive safety and compliance failures.
Now, let's look at the primary vehicle for your logistics, the housekeeping trolley. A well-stocked trolley is not simply a cart. You need to view it as a highly strategic resource allocation engine. Guests form their first impressions in literally fractions of a second, and something as minor as a missing bin liner or a streaky mirror can destroy an otherwise perfect stay. An expertly engineered trolley equips your team with the exact right tools before they even knock on that first door. It saves crucial time on every single clean. It drastically cuts down on unnecessary trips back to the supply room. It minimizes cross-contamination risks, and it maintains uncompromising standards across every single shift.
Because this resource engine is so vital, setting it up requires a strict, non-negotiable standard operating procedure. You need to instruct your teams to ruthlessly adhere to this exact sequence. First, empty the trolley completely at the end of every shift. Rapidly check for broken parts and wipe away any chemical stains. When loading it back up, it must be done strategically by weight. Heaviest items at the bottom for absolute stability, lighter items at the top. Linens have to be separated by their distinct purposes, and all chemical lids must be secured tightly to prevent spills. Remember,
Overloading causes accidents, but underloading causes delays. Precision engineering of this trolley is non-negotiable for true operational efficiency. We now transition to the actual battlefield, the guest room. In this final section, we'll break down the exact, uncompromising tactical procedures required to execute 5-star standard service. Let's start with the centerpiece of the room, the bed. To achieve a professional, world-class result, you have to completely eliminate amateur habits. For instance, entirely forego the use of fitted sheets. Leave those for residential homes. Fitted sheets naturally result in wrinkles, bunching, and a deeply inconsistent aesthetic. The 5-star standard mandates the strategic layering of flat sheets. Furthermore, when layering the next sheet, it must be placed finished side down. Why? Because this allows you to fold it perfectly back over the comforter or duvet. That simple move creates a crisp, decorative appearance that instantly signals luxury and an obsessive attention to detail to your guest.
Next, we move to the most highly scrutinized area of the entire room, the bathroom. In high-end hospitality, bathroom defects trigger the absolute strongest negative reactions from guests. A single water spot or stray hair doesn't just ruin the mirror or the sink, it completely ruins the guest's trust. Guests subconsciously associate bathroom cleanliness with the overall hygiene and safety of the entire hotel. Because zero defects are permitted here, your bathroom execution demands an airtight, standardized workflow that leaves absolutely nothing to chance.
To achieve that flawless zero-defect state, you must enforce a fixed tactical sequence, like the LuxOps methodology. This framework dictates that your staff must always work from clean to dirty, top to bottom, and dry to wet. Think about the strategic intelligence of this sequence. Working top to bottom ensures that dust or chemicals falling from a high mirror don't ruin a freshly cleaned vanity below. Working dry to wet ensures you aren't turning dry dust into mud on wet surfaces. Enforcing this specific mental model maximizes labor efficiency and systematically eliminates the risk of cross-contamination.
Applying that sequence on the ground translates into rapid, granular tactics. You begin by quickly sweeping the floor to remove dry debris. Then, you scrub and finish the heavy fixtures, the platform, bathtub, and basin. You wipe down the walls and the shower curtain, always strictly working top to bottom. Next, you meticulously replace the toilet rolls, amenities, and liners. Finally, you slow down to execute the closing protocol. Close the ventilation, clean the door, and critically, leave the bathroom door open so that pristine, glowing space is immediately visible to the guest when they enter the room. Your staff must finish with a final visual check from the guest's exact perspective before they walk away. Which brings us to the final, absolutely critical question you must ask yourself as a hospitality leader. As we've explored today, amateur cleaning relies purely on effort, but elite housekeeping relies on systems. From mastering the psychological profile of your staff and engineering your logistics to executing fixed tactical sequences in the guest room, mastering this advanced operational structure is the only way to ensure pristine aesthetic appeal at scale. I highly encourage you to audit your own operations against these benchmarks. Ask yourself, are your current procedures built on the hope of good effort, or are they engineered for guaranteed, absolute consistency? The answer to that question will dictate whether you merely compete in the hospitality market or whether you dominate it. Thank you for joining this masterclass.